Welcome to episode 29 of the Service Course Report.
Yeah.
Today is April 22nd, 2026. It's Earth Day. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Substack. We'll load our photos from Sea Otter onto Flickr. That's what all the pro photographers do. So we'll try to keep up with the pros. And our content is out there on YouTube. We have the great interviews that Kurt conducted. So we got a Tinker interview. We've got a Alan Lim interview. We've got Lesby interview. Pete Stetna.
John Hanscom. Gary Fisher.
You were hard at it, KS. I actually saw a bunch of interviews that you did just from them being posted up. I'm like, oh, I didn't know KS interviewed this person and this person.
And
that
I
was
got
good.
a couple more that I will. I'll send to Tech Rico to get uploaded to our channels. Yeah, got a couple more good ones on the final day.
Yeah, so you can find those on Instagram and YouTube. And we just want to point out our content. And so we're post Sea Otter. This is our first episode back.
We got the otter over, the post-otter hangover, although I guess there's really not much of a hangover. Maybe trying to redigest everything we saw and did in that.
So what's one thing that you learned at Sea Otter, or one thing?
My one thing is that Zap referred to himself as the Mexican conduit, which I think is just freaking hilarious because that is perfect. You're the conduit and the Mexican. So that made me laugh. And maybe also, I think the thing I learned is like listening to Zap talking about his riding, I got a little bit more understanding of how he likes to ride. Because I always find it interesting for people who really have like a love of bike and ride, no matter, what, like where you find your pocket that you ride in. So that was kind of cool. He was like he said, 32 slick to maybe 40, 42, 43 gravel tire. And that's his jam. So those are the things that I learned.
So make sure you go and listen to that episode. It's an absolute gem. I think he comes across as a very nice, gracious person. We used to sit and read the magazine Mountain Bike Action, and he was dictating our inventory with his likes and dislikes, which I tell the story of. I don't know that I thought he was a nice person, but when you meet him in person, he's really gracious and very kind. And so I definitely learned that that was the first time I've ever met him. So
yeah.
Oh, wild. Yeah. Quite an icon in the bike industry, and really, especially with the whole birth of the mountain bike racing stuff. Great guy.
Yeah.
Me, what did I learn? I learned that going to Sea Otter and hanging out with your brother and one of your best friends and camping and never leaving the venue and not having to work it's a completely different experience. So I unfortunately had never done that before and got that. We never left the venue, and I never felt like I needed to. Never sat in traffic. None of that. So never even had to take a bag out of the van into a hotel room because we were just there. It made the whole experience
because your van
much
was
more
your
enjoyable.
hotel room.
And podcasting studio, so it
Yeah,
was
that's
all
right.
good.
Podcasting studio, that was great.
That was my takeaway from the Otter. So
yeah. What about you, Ed?
So I rode the Fuego XC on Sunday, and there was a lot of braking bumps. A lot. Because I don't think they'd done much trail work from the XL the day before. And so my good buddy and shoulder coach, DS, told me it's best to brake before the shoulder bumps or the braking bumps and let your suspension have its time through them in the turn. So sometimes people give me advice and I'm like, yeah, I can't quite hear it. Just goes, shh. But that was good advice. And I've never ridden in so many braking bumps in my life. So
yeah, it gets bad.
That course was played out.
Especially by the end of the end of the week, and because it's so just kind of like one line, and you see what I mean, right? Everybody comes in hot, brakes a little late, it makes all those bumps, and if you just apply the brakes and then let off, float through them, and then hit your corner.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm pleased that that's the thing that I learned at Sea Otter.
Nice.
You know, I held my time in the expo where you would think you would learn things was pretty abbreviated. I took my daughter there, and she's just like, walks through and looks at the people, and she's not too interested. And so that wasn't good expo absorbing time. Um, and then, we did the demo, and then maybe one other time. So I didn't really soak up a lot of learning in the expo.
Right.
I learned by watching the Lifetime Grand Prix, and I learned by riding an e-bike, and I learned by dealing with braking bumps. So those are the things I absorbed.
Nice. That's good. And the great thing about that braking bump trick is that's something that you can take everywhere on every trail, because every trail that gets, a respectable amount of use has braking bumps going into the corners. So it's really something that you can use. And then you can even open up your corner a little bit, and do your braking. And then as you go through the bumps, a lot of times, people, because I do this a lot, teach people of all levels about braking, whether it's on the road or on dirt. But most people have this idea, I think, because the feeling of speed, that you just like come in fast and jam on the brakes at the last moment, which really isn't the way to have a nice smooth corner. And when you get on dirt, it's maybe a little bit more amplified because there's like different lines you can take. So, when you think if you were coming in, you're on the brakes on those braking bumps and you're bouncing around, you get through them, and now you're right into the berm or the bermed part of it, it doesn't leave you like a lot of time to think about your lines. Whereas if you're getting into that mode of just slowing down a little bit, easing the brakes on before, and you're rolling through those braking bumps, now you're actually able to spot the corner a little bit better. And a lot of times, it'll be braking bumps and then the berm will kind of have a hook or a hole in it. And if you slow down, you'll be able to see as you're going through those braking bumps and maybe just like cut the corner a little bit, and not hit in the hooked part of the berm. So slowing your corner down, as we all know the old adage of going slow to go fast, that's one of the keys right there. So that's cool. I'm glad that I could, offer up something that would actually teach you something. Sweet. Yeah.
Coach DS.
That's cool. That's it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
So does anyone have any free laps from the last week?
I definitely have a free lap from one of our episodes that we recorded there in the podcasting studio at the Raceway. I think it was episode 27 when we were talking about our demo day with Specialized in riding the e-bikes. And after listening through our podcast, I misspoke about the ability of that bike. I said it can go from a class 1 to a class 2 to a class 3. And no, there's no class 2 because class 2 does not require the operator to pedal. So the bike will go from a class 1 with a maximum speed, is it 25 miles an hour, DS?
20 miles an hour. 20 miles an hour in a class 1.
To 28 miles an hour on a class 3.
Correct.
And then I realized I should have just let DS talk about the e-bikes because you're the only one of the three of us that had any experience. But it was good. But it was fun to go back through and listen to the episode and go, oh, okay. So I actually learned something from that.
Yeah. Well, good.
So that's my free lap. So correction there before I don't know if anyone's already corrected me, but free lap.
Yeah. Sweet.
Either you guys? Any freeze?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm sure I do, but
that's what I'd say. I'm sure I probably do. I haven't got a chance to. Well, actually, that's not true. I have got a chance to listen to everything, and I feel like between driving or something, I'll catch something. But if I didn't have the moment to make note of it, so maybe I'll just take a free lap on my free laps and start fresh. Double free. Start fresh.
There we go.
Nothing glaring, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, DS, you do any riding on the Sea Otter weekend or the last couple days? Or
I did. I haven't had a chance to ride since I got back, which is a bummer because I wanted to ride today, but because we got a bit of rain yesterday, maybe like quarter of an inch, which would have been nice. But I did up at Otter. I got in 2 more rides after when I took my e-bike, my Crusher, out on that Saturday and just went out and was burning laps on like the short Fuego, which is this fun trail that drops off the end of the campground where we are, which is also another cool thing, just to like roll over and 30 seconds later you're on the trail. And it starts with a fast bumpy downhill. So that's really fun. And then going down, and there was some XC racing out there. So then I would, e-bike up. I would come up behind somebody and they're like, hear my bell, and they're like, oh, getting ready to move over. Well, don't move over. I'm not racing. I didn't want to hurt their race. And so they would just wait, and then I could moto around in the grass or something. But it's a really fun and short loop. You can get all the downhill stuff in, and then the climb, you can power up and fire road right back up. And then there's actually the little single track once you come back up and kind of get up towards the level of the top of the corkscrew, and then it works its way over to the campground. Those are actually just like super fun trails. I was having a blast out there. And again, I like doing laps a lot of times because you're hitting the same corner over and over and over again. So that was my ride on Saturday. Was that Saturday? Oh yeah. And then also, which was really fun, KS and I took that new Amflow mountain bike out with the Avinox M2S motor in it, which is getting all the rage and all the press because, DJI, who makes Avinox, they level jumped on the motor. And so that was really interesting. Although going from our 2 hour or hour and a half, whatever it was, demo with Specialized and all these people, it was definitely a different experience. The Amflow was just like flat pedals. We didn't really pump up suspension. Here's your bike, and you get on out there. And Kurt and I rolled up and asked, oh, how long do we get to test? And she said 15. I thought she said 50. I'm like, wait, what? 15 minutes? So she's like, well, 15 or 20. So we milked it for about a half hour. But the one thing I will say to Sea Otter's credit is they do have a really good little e-bike demo right there that honestly, if you were trying out stuff that the bike could do, is great. There's a pavement climb, there were dirt climbs you could go up, and a couple little single tracks, and then this fun one that came down the front of the venue. So that was, that was pretty cool. Interesting, just interfacing with the DJI or the Avinox, and Amflow people, and riding that bike with a bit of new, battery technology as well in the Amflow. So that was a fun ride to do too.
Let's unpack it a little bit. DJI is the drone company, camera gimbal company,
right?
Mini microphone company. Most of the Maverick drones that you see flying around that are used in real estate photography. It's a huge company, and they've gotten into e-bikes, and so their brand names are Amflow is the bike name, and Avinox is the motor name. But it's really important to realize it's DJI, which you can go into Costco and buy about 5 DJI things in the front electronics area.
Yeah, that they're a big company. They're just not coming in through bikes, and they're taking that technology obviously from drone motors. And you think about what a drone motor has to do, weight and compactability is key on those, and that they've taken some key technologies. I think I may have spoken about it on the one pod, or I don't remember if we were just talking about it, but apparently they use, when they wrap the wire for the motors, they use like ribbon flat wire instead of round wire, and something about the way it compacts. You don't have any gaps in between and some different stuff. So I find that pretty interesting. I think that, I had heard rumors of a big step in battery and motor technology coming. We'd all kind of like heard it in the e-bike industry. And it seems like this one's definitely, like I said, level jumping up. So Bosch and Shimano and everybody else are kind of trying to play catch up, I guess.
So when you looked at the Amflow bikes, was the fit and finish attractive? Does it look like a $15,000 Specialized?
No. I mean, well, if you compare it to the Levo R's that we rode, right? Definitely the Specialized. Well, there's the one thing that you notice right away is their battery technology. They have a bunch of these round little cells that they link together. I didn't get all the specifics. It fits in the battery. So the down tube on the Amflow is almost a normal size down tube. I mean, it's bigger, but if you just saw like an aluminum bike or something that had a normal size down tube, the down tube size is almost a normal size, as opposed to say like my Mondrake or the Specialized, has a lot bigger down tube that houses a bigger kind of long, brick shaped battery that's in there. The finish, they had one color, excuse me. the frame detail and stuff didn't look like it had the level of, say, a nice Specialized or, even my Mondraker, the finish and stuff like that. But every bike there was kind of like that flat gray. I don't know what the term for it is, where it's a little bit, I don't know, or not flat gray, but it's like what Toyotas or different auto manufacturers have, where it's like a gray, but you kind of can see through it a little bit. I don't know what the term is for that kind of paint. So all the bikes were just the same color,
It was like a glossy battleship gray kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that's all they're selling them as. I haven't researched, like just going for one color, like Hondas are red or something, or if they just made all the bikes here at first that color for like their demo fleet. But I mean, it still was a nice bike. It wasn't like you didn't get on it think, oh man, this thing's a piece. You might notice nicer detail and other stuff, but it was definitely a pretty capable bike. But of course, trying to put it through its paces out on, the e-bike demo loop wasn't really like, it'd be like having a Ferrari and driving it around town a little bit. So maybe didn't quite get to put it out on the paces. It would have been fun to take it out on that same loop that we took the Specialized on, just to kind of get a feel for the difference. But, we didn't have that kind of time.
Yeah. And I would say joining DS on the ride, we didn't swap pedals. So we went out on flat pedals, and other than like riding my beach cruiser around town, I don't know the last time I rode on flat pedals like that. So luckily the pins on the pedals like meshed pretty well with the lugs on my shoes, and I was happy I didn't lose a pedal and fillet my shin or my calf. So
those would have been ugly.
I was very, very conscious of that. I think maybe once went over a bump or jumped something and my foot kind of shifted. I'm like, oh, that's right, flat pedals, be careful.
Yeah, you hit a bump and you go and you kind of lift and you feel your feet come off. And then the hard thing is those spikes are so tall, your foot will kind of unweight and come down and it'll be sideways, but you got pressure on them and the pins are holding it in. So then you're like pedaling in your foot, your foot sideways. But I can understand why they do it. They were into turnover. They were about getting as many people out on their product as they could. And in that case, you don't want to hassle switching pedals and having people out for a long period of time. It just felt like they were just trying to get people on it, get people on it and do it. But I will say that as far as the, a company who is making the motor and making the frame and all the electronics and hooking it together in their screen, which was right in the top of the top tube up towards the head tube, and how seamlessly all of that seemed to work in the menus was pretty great. But also it was just a lot of technology and information to try and get in such a short period of time. But, but they definitely have level jump big time. And it's also not like it's the same price and it's got a faster motor or something, it's far less money and also has a faster motor. And the weight was, I think, and we were looking at the stats you were beforehand, I think it's a half pound lighter, if I remember correctly, than that Levo R that we rode. I think the Levo Rs were like around 44 pounds and this Amflow showed 43 and a half, I think is what you'd picked up, if I have my memory correct. So, it's definitely interesting.
Weight.
Yeah.
Well, so is that DSU? So on the e-bike thing, since you've been riding years from now and you pay more attention, is this what's the big tech push? What's, like for us as consumers, as we get more brands coming in with different motors, it's battery capacity and then motor
it's capacity
torque?
for the weight.
Is that what we're looking at?
Motor is two things. It's torque and power. Your overall power and your torque, and everybody's has kind of been incrementing up, a little bit, which is to be expected, in motor technologies. You test a bunch out and you try new stuff and make generations, but this one definitely went up went up a couple generations, it seemed like, in one fell swoop. But basically the main thing is like what these bikes are going for is trying to give a rider a full power motor and battery, which they are, but have it feel lighter, like maybe a mid-weight bike. Like my e-bike is 54 pounds. Now I have heavier wheels and downhill tires and stuff like that, and more travel than the ones that we rode. So it's a bit more burly of a bike, but you got to figure if your motor has more power, then you should be able to save battery. Like if you only set up your peak power so it was the same as mine, but your motor had more power overall, you'd think it's going to be easier for it to do the same power, then you'd have a little bit less battery draw. So essentially the big thing in e-bikes is, when they first came out, they were heavy, full power. A lot of people said, ooh, we like a midweight or a lightweight EMTB, but then they started figuring out it really just kind of depends on what type of riding you do. Some people, if they don't want to have a big bike and they just ride for an hour and a half or something, they might like a lightweight motor and a light battery. But mostly it's about trying to get more range out of your bike, but not have it be, a tank. And so the lighter battery is really achieving that, big time, along with obviously, up to power in that Avinox motor.
So it seems like it's evolving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of the first iPhone you had versus the one you have now, right? Or back to a flip phone. And with DJI coming in, it seems like this technology is going back and forth. We talked about as battery technology for tech, and not including e-bikes in tech. As that gets better, it's gonna trickle over the other way. It seems like everything is more and more power. We got the electric cars, right? Electric motos. I have a leaf blower. I had an old backpack leaf blower, a 2-stroke, and I had to pre-mix the fuel, and now I've got one with batteries, and it's like, so that's, and it's the same tech, right? What was the Keith Bontrager? You can have light. You can have
light, stiff,
light,
and
inexpensive.
Cheap.
Yeah. Or strong,
strong, light,
or inexpensive. Choose 2. So, all right.
Yeah, so that's kind of the e-bike evolution as I've seen it. Yeah, of what people are going for.
I'm reading the Pink Bike review here, and it says that they have heart rate based assistance mode with a heart rate strap.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Kurt had asked Specialized about that, and they didn't offer that, but these guys have it.
Heart rate assistance mode, or just linking the heart rate monitor to the bike?
It says, intriguingly, the system features a heart rate based assistance mode. The heart rate monitor by somebody who makes a chest strap. System reacts accordingly and decreases the assistance when the heart rate falls below a set threshold, and increases when it goes above a second upper threshold. So theoretically, you could be able to ride in whatever heart rate zone you want on a given day without paying attention to the actual value or assistance you're asking from the system.
Right. And so that's kind of
program it for your heart rate and not.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun part of software. Software always makes hardware better, right? So you could just have the same bike that was pre-programmed like e-bikes were in the early days with 3 speeds. That was it. They were just set. You went out and rode it. Now you got heart rate based assistance and power varying and all this type of stuff. And so I think that's part of it is as the bikes get better and you're riding them more, as the electronics comes into play, you're going to find all these different ways to make the bike ultimately, I guess, less that you have to do and more just that you're out riding it and it hits those marks. That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the only ride of note I did was the Fuego XC on Sunday morning. We started at 11:20. They held us for additional 10 or 15 minutes because there was an accident on the course, and so they held us back, which I thought was kind of nice that they're taking care of the rider who was hurt, and it also meant we weren't going to catch slower riders quite so quickly in front of us. My 50 to 59 wave was the largest of the day. I thought that was interesting demographics.
That is pretty interesting.
Behind us, 60 to 69, including so we'll call it 60 plus, was very small, which is also interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In that group was Clark Natwick and Tinker Juarez, who both caught me. So, but a small group, and it just is interesting that, I my friend Jack was supposed to be in that wave. I called him after the race to see how his day went, and he's like, we didn't ride. His buddy's knee locked up, and we just started to drive home. And next year we're going to race gravel on Thursday.
There you go.
I could understand a bit lower numbers or different numbers because of the timing of that being on Sunday, right? Like, and not at 8 a.m. on Sunday, at 11 or later.
That's
especially
rough.
for people that have been there for the entire weekend. They might be getting a little itch to go home. So
they were all beat up, those two gentlemen, so they just started to drive instead of ride, and they were complaining about the start time. It was a hard race, I had all-time heart rate of 160 for 90 minutes. That's the highest that I've ever had since I've had Training Peaks since 2020. So I've had Training Peaks for quite a few years.
Yeah.
Maybe I was dehydrated, maybe it was hot, but mountain bike racing is high heart rate. So
you're always pushing. Unless you're coasting, you're like downhill, you're always pushing. It's all the dirt, the tires, the friction, just sitting up a little bit more. Like it's always a little bit, it's just always a little bit harder.
Well, and I'm guessing with those big groups, it's like there's always someone in sight in front of you, and you often hear someone behind you. So you've got that going on, right?
Yeah.
The back of the brain, the front of the brain, like doing that, and that makes it interesting.
It got all balled up, quite a bit balled up, and then. I rode with Clark Natwick because I knew who he was. Maybe he's like 7-time national champion in cyclocross when we were all growing up. So I'm like, I'm going to stick on this wheel. So I was on his wheel for like 15 minutes, and that's, I bet you, where my heart rate was 160 for the 90 minutes. So motivation from others is helpful.
That's
but
good.
He did drop me climbing eventually. A lot of water bottles.
Looking burly. Yeah, a lot of water bottles.
A lot of water bottles. So those braking bumps we were talking about early, they generated a lot of tossed water bottles. I must have seen between 200 and 300 pitched out water bottles, including one guy who bounced his water bottle, stopped right in the middle of the trail, swung his leg around, took me up into the grass, ran and got his bottle right when Tinker was passing me. So there was quite a, I must have been behind him for like 30 seconds. And so it was hard in dealing with traffic and stuff. And so anyway, a year ago I could barely walk on the Sunday of Sea Otter, and this year I drove all the way home. So I'll call it a victory and a ride completed.
Yeah, nice.
Last year it was my back. It was
right.
Back, so.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll revisit your the water bottle dropping episode a little more. You have a little video to share during our amateur segment a little later in the show. Ain't that right? Yeah.
So we got some bike racing going on from the pros. Amstel Gold was last Sunday. We didn't. We watched Supercross Saturday night. We didn't watch Amstel Gold Sunday morning.
Right.
But we could have.
Yeah, that was interesting. What'd you guys think?
I was. I did not. I watched a longer highlight reel. Maybe it was about half an hour, so you kind of get a flavor for it. But it was cool to see a breakaway and people join the breakaway. Unfortunate that there was a crash within that breakaway, but that's bike racing. And Remco's form seems to be Remco and Matthias Skelmoza. Both of their form seems to be they timed it right for the Ardennes Classics. So for the men, it's going to make for some exciting racing on the weekend for sure. And then of course, we did have Flèche Wallonne today, which we'll get to. But yeah, it seemed like it was exciting. Little cool, maybe a little bit of rain. Watching the highlights, I could see everybody was a little bit splattered.
Shanubi.
What'd you guys think? Oh, that's shattered.
I know.
I just like to see Remco sprint with conviction. He was really, really rapid in the sprint, and I was impressed. And I could tell that he didn't want the embarrassment of losing that sprint. The conviction and the speed which he sprinted was quite compelling.
Yeah, I thought it was similar to watching the weekend before, watching Wout van Aert beat Pogacar, and after one pedal stroke, you knew he was going to take it. Like, and it was the same with Remco. He jumped, and it was like a half a wheel with every pedal stroke. You know, sometimes you get that long shot from the camera ahead, and you can't tell, but then you get the overhead shot, and it's like, oh my gosh, he just kept riding away. So, yeah.
Did you guys see the one?
Got to do your sprint work.
Did you guys see?
Unless you're solo. And we've talked about it, but unless you're solo, you're going to be sprinting
against somebody,
which will take us to the women's race. But yeah, unless you're solo, you got to be sprinting. So if you're out there, you got to know how to sprint, whether it's against one other person or three or five or a whole group. So not often you get to win solo.
Did you guys on your extended highlight that you saw, Cass? Did you see the one early on in the race where they were all jockeying for position at the front, and Remco's at the front, and he kind of moved over on, blanking on the French guy, on Jumbo, tall guy.
On Christophe Laporte.
Yes, and he kind of like moved over, and Laporte just put out a hand like, hey, I'm here, and then Remco was like, all fired up. Dude, he was feisty. I don't know if he had like extra creatine or something, but he was just like, he's just like, I don't know. Did you guys get that attitude from him? No, really? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, even the way he's on
is kind of like that.
I guess so. Maybe he just seemed like a little more, or maybe that's just him and I hadn't noticed, but he was definitely just like fired up. He had a quick fuse. He was ready to go.
Well, and I think it's funny you bring that up, because I was thinking about that when I was watching that highlight. Mm-hmm. And the commentator was talking about, I think at some point during that, he was talking about, when Remco was a footballer before he got into cycling, because he didn't get into cycling until he was, almost the end of his teenage years. And they said, he was a team captain and this and that. But it got me to thinking that he's not like a lot of riders in the past that came up through cycling. Right? He came into it later. And so the attitude's a little bit different, but in that instance specifically, like whenever you're in a race, I mean, you guys remember racing, or even on a group ride, and you just get a soft touch on the hip. That's generally just a, hey, I'm here, right? Versus getting shoved. It's like, just, hey, watch out, I'm here. My take was that it was an overreaction, And maybe the overreaction is the fact that you didn't grow up having that happen to you, when you started racing when you were a lot younger. I don't know if that's true, but that was just kind of a thought that went through my mind on that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time he overreacts. When Jonas wasn't pulling through earlier, in the Spanish stage race 30 days ago, he was like waving at him and getting all animated. It's not the first time we've seen him very animated.
Right.
And he gets upset sometimes in the interviews too. So.
Yeah. Huh?
Maybe.
I'd rather have that. Yeah, than somebody that just sits there like a lump. I mean, like at least it throws a little fire, a little personality. It's not like he's like crashing people. You know what I mean? He's just fired up. So it's good. I guess we're getting to learn his personality more. The more and more that maybe he's in the spotlight, and the more that he comes out, just like we learn the different styles, the riders of Van der Poel's style or Tade's style, like, I think it's interesting, like Van der Poel rolls up to cross races in the Lambo with the bike rack on there. I think that's kind of cool. It's just like his, his thing. Yeah. So it's fun. I mean, I think that's part of the fun part of racing, like for all the technology and parts that are put out of a machine, they are ultimately piloted by humans, and the most interesting thing about humans, I find, aside from our accomplishments and stuff, is just our personalities, our quirks and things. Just like Remco, right? He's fired up. Tade has the presence of mind to like pull his gloves off and give them to a kid, like in the middle of all that. It's just kind of interesting to see where they all fall into that line. That's cool. Yeah. So here though,
for women's race.
Yeah.
I would say, in the women's races, again, I just got to watch some highlights, and I haven't had the time yet to watch the longer one. But Paula Blasi from the ADQ UAE team, she upset the favorites with an amazing solo ride. Coming, it's not oftentimes, you see your name in the results, and behind you is Demi Vollering and Cassia Niwi-Adoma. So it's cool. And it's for me, it's great to see, because I have, watched and paid attention and worked in women's cycling for a while now, to see that level of confidence, and especially in some of these younger riders, is coming up to the point where they're willing to just go for it. If you wait for the last climb, I think it was the Cowberg, and you wait to go head to head with Vollering and Niwi-Adoma, well, guess what? Nobody else could do it in the whole rest of the group that was back. So you have to be willing to take those chances.
Yeah.
And I think it also is, it's probably a testament to whoever the directors are with that team, and they're encouraging the riders to do that, because that team, they've been knocking for a big win here all season, with multiple riders in the breakaways, in the final selection. So it's great to see them getting a result. And I think they said she was 23 or 25 years old. So still, especially in the women's peloton, generally the age is a little bit later. The riders tend to be a little bit older in the women's peloton when they really start winning these bigger races. So that was great to see. And I can't wait to, go back and watch some extended highlights, or watch the last hour or so of the race to see how it really came about. But it's always fun. And I think you guys agree when someone wins who's not expected to win, and they do it in grand style,
Right.
I mean, men's Amstel Gold race last year, right? Who would have bet that Skelmoza was going to beat Tade and Remco when the three of them were in a breakaway last year? It's like 100 times out of 100, no one would have picked him. So, maybe a Danish journalist, but still, it's exciting. And
that's why we love racing.
To see, exciting for us, but especially to see the excitement in the athlete's face when they win that first big one. So that was great to watch.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that sprint last year. I forgot about that. I know Skelmosen won, but I can't remember how it was. And that was quite the moment. So.
Yeah, that was quite.
That was one of those ones where
guys.
Yeah, every once in a while, you find yourself on the couch screaming, and nobody else is in the room. Maybe someone's in the other room. They're like, "What are you yelling about?" I did that with Paris-Roubaix last weekend. So yeah, very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today we had a midweek semi-classic. We'll call it La Flèche Wallonne, because it's not a classic, right? It's a semi-classic.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a classic, just over 200. Monument. Yeah. Or I don't know how they determine them.
I think that's a better classification right there, DS.
Yeah, maybe so. But
although I think it might have something to do with the distance as well.
Oh yeah,
right? So it's just over 200 Ks, where generally I think the classics are over 250. So in any case, the French are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I was thinking is I like to call them sexy ass, and then you hear it pronounced sexass, and then I heard an Australian pronounce it today as Seychas. I'm like, there's three pronunciations, and then I'm never going to get it right, and then people are going to correct me on YouTube. So I don't know. I think he's.
I would say listen to the French commentator. We need to find a French feed, listen to that, and that should be it.
Well, I think he's the last name is Basque or Catalan or something, even though he's French. It's
interesting.
So Seychelles might be more correct.
Maybe it depends on what country you're pronouncing it in. If you're in Spain, you call them Seychelles, but if you're in France, which might get tricky in the Tour if they race into the Pyrenees in Spain. They'll be calling out different people.
He's a very special rider.
Yeah, definitely.
He's the great French hope.
Yeah, for the people who don't know that he won the Flèche today in pretty dominating fashion. It did come down to the last climb, which in recent years it pretty much mostly has, but he just rode it and controlled that race. It was a master class. That's how the pros do it, man, in controlling a race. Got to the front early. A lot of time winners in recent years have maybe hung back had a teammate setting pace for him or something, even on the steeper stuff. And then when they make that hard left where it really pitches up and heads up towards the line, they'll go there. But he was at the front and rode it. Oh yeah,
I'll bring up a little video. You can go. Yeah, So this is from about 900 meters to go.
Oh yeah,
the climb is called the Mur de Huy.
Yeah, the Mur de.
What did I just do?
You had it, Chaos. We were almost. Here we go.
I did.
Try and take a bit
you have audio?
All right. Yep.
So here we go.
He's number 61. You'll see him right there.
But Bilbao just in front of him. That was Chris Nyland's Ben Tulip.
So he's at the front at the bottom.
For Group Arm on the dark blue.
That was 900 meters.
George Bennett, they're all in there. So this is going to be a hell of a fight in here, and it's anyone's game. But Paul Sexas, he's propped on the front.
So low speed, not much advantage aerodynamically.
Feeling it out a bit, it spreads out.
To go for it. Sexas on the right-hand side, shoulder to shoulder with Ben Tullett, and Barcelo showing a little bit of anxiety. Mara Schmidt at the front.
Looking around a little bit.
Yeah.
Checking out the competition.
Exactly. But look, he's right there, controlling around the inside.
Team. They're all trying to make their way up.
Still a pretty big group.
Easy post, Alex Bodan. When is this
it's
one
3
and then 4 and then 3.
Last year it was Tadej Pogacar, but took his leave of the rest of them. This is going to be the late show. Inside, we're approaching 500
We need more white shoes and socks.
So he's been at the front for 400 meters now.
The most steep, the really
Here we go around that left.
Around about 20%. This is where it grips. Who's going to launch?
Look at him. So now he's going.
This one, so too does the pre-event favorite.
So him and Kozanafwa out of the saddle, back in the saddle. Kozanafwa goes up again.
Sexas launches. Who's going to be able to respond? Kozanafwa in white for UAE Team Emirates. He's there and on the wheel of his fellow countryman. But will he have the legs to withstand this effort?
Look at him still looking around, marking it. Now he really digs.
He's the bike squad in yellow, and he's ready to go for glory.
This is where you're looking down, looking forward.
In 3 years. Not just yet, not if Paul Sexas has anything to say about it. Sexas owns the hill at the moment. Has he cracked Ben Tullett just yet? Kozanafwa and Schmidt also in close attendance. But now Sexas goes, and Sexas starts to launch.
Kept a little bit, didn't he?
Paul Sexas for the decathlon squad starts to open up. A bike link, the second bike link, and it's slumps back in the saddle, but he's not home and hosed just yet. This is the longest 200-300 meters of his life. Paul Sexas at 19 years of age is getting for glory. He's going to become the youngest ever winner of Flèche Wallonne. He's justified his pre-event favourite status. A debutante victory in prospect here. And Paul Sexas rides it to the line and will get his arms in the air and commands Flèche Wallonne 2026.
That was spectacular.
Yeah. Masterclass there, huh?
I mean, to ride at the
way
front
he controlled that.
Yeah, and all the way at the bottom when it was, when it was still not quite as steep, where maybe a little bit of a draft is going in, then he just rode it at the front, never got pinched, was there, and then accelerated. That was it. He crushed it, man. Pretty dang impressive for 19. 19, so
just out of the juniors, and his first appearance at La Flèche Wallonne. Yeah. I mean, it's really freaking exciting. I think there's a whole new crop of these young French riders with him and Kozanafwa and Romain Grégoire, who was, these guys were in it at Amstel as well. I think it's an exciting time for that. I mean, think what we were doing when we were 19.
We were racing bikes.
That's true. Yeah.
Just not over.
Not quite the Willows Road race, but
Yeah, but it was
on
our
Sunday,
it was our
going
Flèche.
at it. On Sunday we'll get to watch him ride against Poggi in the LBL Liège.
In the
Liège.
Yeah, that's
and
that's
is Remco starting LBL?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's won that
I would imagine.
At least twice.
Yeah. Has he won it twice? I knew he won it once. Yeah. Those years where he had some form.
I think he won it twice in identical form.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was Sexas. That was, he handled it. It's exciting to see. I mean, I got to say, I really hope that, there's talk, right? There hasn't been a French Tour winner since in '85, and the French are always lamenting. And I just got to say, if you got a guy this good who's on a French team right now, they best figure out a way somehow, man. The government needs to step up or something and keep that French guy on a French team and get him some backing to go, head to head. You've obviously got a rider who's talented, amazingly talented. Let's get some backing behind him. Let's get some influence out there to keep that team together and build it around him. I mean, that would be epic. So that's my suggestions to you, country of France. Make sure that guy stays on a French team and step it up.
Well, Ed, didn't you mention that Emmanuel Macron was even voicing his concern, opinion, thoughts on this, huh?
Yeah, I haven't read up on all the juicy details, but I think he's involved. I also think that Decathlon registered as a Swiss team for a couple of weeks and then quickly reverted back to a French team. There's taxification reasons for that. In France, you have different kinds of employment tax.
Right.
So there's a lot involved, but I think the French need to figure this out. And I'm curious, like Decathlon is basically like a Dick's Sporting Goods store, but they have a lot of their own brands inside the store, is my understanding. Like Van Rysel Bikes is their brand for bicycles. Like, have either one of you been in a Decathlon store?
I was in a Decathlon store like in the late 90s when I just first started working for Time. The only thing I remember about the Decathlon store is that I was able to buy some of those ribbed wool base layers that we used to ride when we were kids that you couldn't get in the US. And like I rolled in there, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in a sporting goods store and they have these shirts. And so I bought a few of them, but that's all I remember. And then they started coming into the US. I know that maybe their first store was actually in San Francisco, I believe.
Oh, really? So they have US stores.
Yeah. And whether they still do, I think they kind of made a big push and then backed off a little bit. So I don't know exactly, but I do remember them pushing into the Bay Area several years back.
Well, I was thinking about correct me, I can't remember the IndyCar driver that drove for Target.
Jimmy Vasser?
Jimmy Vasser, when, all the sub-sponsors on the car were rumored to be, sold in a Target. So,
right.
Whatever brand it was, like whether it was Dove soap or whatever,
right.
If you want in cap placement inside a Target, you had to pony up and help pay for our race car. So Decathlon ought to be leaning on their products that are sold in their store or something, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right that the Target team was able to do that and leverage that. And you're right. It's smart. It's a good, it's a good business model. It makes sense. It makes sense for them. So hopefully we'll see if they can, they can pull it off. But I mean, France needs a hero. They seem like they've got one. Cycling hero anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And well, Le Claire was a French team that was all Bernard Tapie's products, that he owned. He was an owner in Look, and
Wonder.
Le Claire was a Wonder. Those are different brands that he held. That might have even had Adidas as a sub-sponsor at one point.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that one, but I'm guessing that if if anyone watched that Unchained, those few seasons on Netflix, the mockumentary, whatever you want to call it, they're trying to be like the F1 series, Drive to Survive. But it was, and Decathlon came in big, right? And then there was a little shift in ownership of the team. But you'd have to think that if they wanted to back a bike racing team, that they must have other brands in their store that are cycling centric. Yes, to your point, Ed, they did start their own bicycle brand because, why not, right? You cut out the middleman, so to speak. It helps on your margins, and then you've got a team racing on that. So it'll be interesting if they are able to do that. I hope so. It looks like we are, like you said, with him, with Cosnefroy, with Gregoire. It looks like we've got a little bit of a resurgence. We got some French riders that are, I think what you were talking about earlier, yes, like Remco, they're a little bit feisty. They're not, kind of one trick ponies. They can win different types of races. So it'll make for an interesting next few years and an interesting Tour de France this summer for sure. But we still got the granddaddy of the Ardennes Classics on Sunday. So that'll be exciting to watch.
The Liège.
I was just thinking out loud a little bit more about decathlon and had one more thought I wanted to share. So I was standing there at the start line and I ran into Michael Marks, who's the founder of Belgian Waffle Ride and quite the marketing mastermind. And I looked down at his shoes and I go, "What are you wearing?" And I looked down at his shoes and I was like, "I don't recognize that brand." He's like, "Oh, these are Decathlon. They got into making like a Hoka style cushion shoe." And he's like, "I should have been wearing them like 10 years ago." And Michael was quite a runner. I think he's finished like 12 marathons by the time he was like 18 or something. He's quite the runner. So he was wearing some Decathlon brand or off, like they weren't branded Decathlon, but they created their brand of cushion running shoes. So it's just an interesting part of Decathlon, and they're also the sponsor. Van Rysel is also the principal sponsor of Belgian Waffle Ride going forward this year. So just interesting thoughts about Decathlon as a company.
It's kind of like a Trader Joe's model, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of buying somebody else's stuff, you got Trader Giotto's, you got Trader Jose's, you got, whatever. So yeah, they're making their own brands. Well, I think that the manufacturing capabilities, it is pretty crazy in the past when you think of what it would take for a storied bike company to create a bike good enough of, racing and winning top world tour events. And now you have a big, essentially sporting goods company able to go right in and just develop a bike and get that to market and put it under their riders. So it's definitely a slightly shifting business model, the technology gives that capability.
So my target IndyCar scenario doesn't quite work with when you're making your own Trader Joe's products.
Right, if you have all your own stuff. Yeah. But so you're deciding, right? Do you take this much money for your team, or do you advertise your bikes through your team and make, more than that money? So there are different, business models. Obviously the great thing about the decathlon model is then you own that brand, which of course has its pitfalls as well. But if you build up a bunch of, good marketing around your brand, it's not like 3 years later that manufacturer decides they don't want to sponsor you anymore. And then you're like, oh, in this case, they're still on the same bike brand and it's their brand.
Yeah.
So
it's a very interesting model. I'm glad we unpacked it a little bit, because I think people think, oh, Van Rysel's been around for a long time. I'm like, it's like a 3 or 4 year old brand. It popped up out of nowhere, and they're they're showing up at trade shows with concepts. Like they got some shoe with technology and electronics in it. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff to build a brand. So
right, yeah, that's interesting.
So I brought up a little something on it's the Decathlon CMA CGM team. I'm not quite sure what CMA and CGM are.
Country Music Awards?
But it's
maybe no.
Yeah.
Sounds like insurance.
Yeah. So it says increased budget and ownership from Decathlon. So Decathlon owns the team now. Mm-hmm. Co-title sponsor CMA CGM. So maybe that's one brand. That's not two different brands. French squad aims for a top 5 world tour ranking, targeting grand tours and monuments using Van Rysel bikes, as you spoke about, Ed. And then it does, talks about some of the riders. Our latest Grand Tour hope from the U.S., Matthew Riccatello, is on that team. Mm-hmm. They did get T. Spinute to come over this year, and Case Bowl. So we got some experience. Olaf Koy, the sprinter, came over from Visma Leaf's bike as well as T. Spinute. And so, yeah, it's a pretty stellar team. Felix Gall, Tour de France stage winner, what was that, 2 years ago, going on 3 years ago? And so it says Decathlon acts as the main partner, owner, and technical core, with Decathlon-United.media confirming the team aims to align high performance with brand accessibility. So I think to your point, Ed, they are, using their brands. That doesn't mean that they can't also leverage other brands from outside, but it is an interesting business model, and I think there's bigger stuff at play here. So, good one, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Anybody?
One more
amateur?
No, I'm going to go back and here's one. They also hired Mark Renshaw, so I didn't realize that. So Mark Renshaw. Yeah, so he raced alongside Mark Cavendish, but then he was the architect to Cav's number 35 when he won his 35th. Yeah. So they're helping. They've got sprint ambitions as well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild.
Actually, I got us out of order. Anybody have a what went wrong?
Well, I just want to stick with the Flèche Wallonne. None of us have had time to watch the women's event, so we cannot speak with any intelligence or any knowledge about it. So we'll have to come back to that in our next episode, because it would just do a disservice to try to talk about it, knowing who won but not seeing the race.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have it.
What went wrong? No, I don't.
I think I'm the what went wrong with my rider immediately in front of me, bouncing his water bottle, not looking back, swinging his leg off without looking back, disrupting a former Olympian. Did Tinker Juarez ride the Olympics in Atlanta?
I can't remember if he made the Olympics in Atlanta.
I think
that's
he
a
did.
good
I think
question.
He was on fire that year.
Well, remember he was on fire the year before too, in '95, and Johnny T got Giardia from racing the Hawaii Mountain Tour, and so he missed it. So maybe Tinker was on the Olympic team that year. Yeah,
so we'll
would have been
Olympian. Just about stacked all of us up with his bounced water bottle. Maybe we have some sample.
We got a little video here too of Ed. You had talked about your Meta glasses. Well, you captured this stuff here.
As you were going around him on the grass, did you give him the fill and go, amateur? You got to get the, dirt. That might be hard with one hand.
A combined what went wrong. Well, we know what went wrong and amateur, right? Yeah. So here's the footage.
Sorry. Water bottle.
And there goes Tinker.
Oh, that's a big group. Dude, he really did stuff you.
Look at the line of riders off in the distance.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, nice. Keeping it real on the trail there.
We got a little bit of clear trail now.
That's hard closing gaps on the dirt, harder than, check it out. Riding right up to it. Look at that boosting power right there. Some turnover. This is such a great trail. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. Yeah, so this is in that whole first part of it, right? You go down here, the fast part, and then you make that. You go down, then that right, and then the left over the bridge and up. Is that this corner?
Yeah, there's a whole section of braking bumps for you right now.
Yeah, right there. And the different lines, and then you go down and make this bridge and then go up to the left. That trail's so much fun.
So if you haven't been to Sea Otter, there was a little bit of the single track, but I think you bring up a great point with that one, Ed. So oftentimes people get out there and they start racing. They get in these groups, and that guy, right? You said he launched his water bottle, and he just instantly got on the brakes. He didn't look back. He didn't say, "I'm slowing down." He did that, and luckily you were paying attention, so he didn't take you out and make it a lot worse.
Yeah, no, it all worked out fine for me. I just got delayed a little bit, and Tinker got to pass me gracefully. I don't know. I was going to say, I think that guy was from a much younger age group, and he was having quite the day. Getting caught all day long. So that's our what went wrong amateur.
I guess it was an amateur that you said it was a what went wrong. Yes. I have some blinded by science, and so I guess it started by the Avinox motor, And I know everybody is, oh my God, it's hyped up. It's, so much more power and everything, which it is. Now I will say, at a certain point, it's not just like in a motor, like power isn't everything. And to this point, and Specialized talked about how you can switch the bikes in between a class 1 and a class 3 motor. They did bring up that if you're going up like a technical single track, being in class 3 mode is almost going to have too much power. So it might not be the best for the trail. But what really kind of made me think on this Avinox motor is a couple of different brands. And so Avinox, Amflow are launched by DJI. There's another component manufacturer called Stable Lead, which I didn't even know about, even though, Ed, you had actually asked me about it. But with all the stuff leading up to Otter, I didn't really get to dive in. And I just found out about it because I was kind of walking around on Sunday morning waiting for an appointment. I was like, oh, what's this place? And I hear Darren, and I'm like, hey, and I look and it's Tom Rogers, who used to race downhill in our era and worked for Answer and all these different companies. And Brian Lopes, as you had brought up, Ed, when you brought up about the company, they have him, they're doing testing and stuff. But it was amazing when Mark told me that they started this all last year. And the level of components they had, now they're a big carbon maker and, Hollywood dollies and gimbals and things like that, if I have that correct. But they have a lot of carbon capability. I mean, they had some just like wild looking parts. They also had brakes. I mean, he told me how fast the brakes came around. And it was pretty incredible and all at a respectable price. And I'm thinking about this Avinox motor and the Amflow bike in general and how it's priced so much less. And I started wondering if this is if this is a bit of a shift in the industry. And is this just a case of, say, a big Chinese, a company like, say, DJI, right? They have a lot of drone money. Drones have been crushing it over the last however many years. And at a time when the bike industry of traditional bike brands, Specialized, Trek, component makers have been struggling in this post-COVID, whatever you want to call it, where they produce too much and now they're sitting on it. And now maybe you have some companies who weren't in the bike game through all of that. Take DJI as a for instance. And so now all of a sudden they're going, hey, we're sitting on a bunch of, marketing dollars that we can spend. And if you're a bike company, you're having a hard time investing a bunch of money into new technologies because you're sitting on a bunch of old inventory. And if you're a major bike manufacturer and you're sitting on a $9,000 e-bike and now all of a sudden you have Amflow that's coming out with a motor that's level jumping and the price is $5,000 or $6,000, I guess what I'm wondering, and I was thinking about the Stable Lead also, is this a case where a company that, their money isn't tied up from being in the bike industry as long and they're coming in and are they dumping with a bunch of, low price stuff to kind of gain market share and then raising it up? Or is this just actually the new level of pricing? In inflation, some things go up and now the price of eggs really aren't coming down or whatever it is, but maybe this is the opposite. Maybe this is what these companies are doing. Maybe the ability to make, to make inexpensive parts, the technology now, just like we were talking about with Decathlon, they can launch a Tour de France capable bike, right? Now this Stable Lead launched an entire component group and suspension, everything in a year. You have, Amflow, bikes selling much less. They've got new battery technology, but at such a far less price. Is this a level jump, not just in performance, but in pricing? And is this maybe a major manufacturer from China, just like Canyon's done, right, where they sell direct and they keep their margins up? Maybe this is the same thing coming out of China, because we also have XLab, right, which is the sponsor of Astana and a big bike maker. And as we were talking about how they're launching full carbon bikes that would be technically, you would think, or for a mostly, consumer looking at it, might be equal to a big brand's, high dollar bike, but for thousands upon thousands of dollars less. So is this a power move to gain market share and then these prices will eventually go up? Or is this kind of like a paradigm shift of pricing and what the technology is allowing these big companies to do? So that was kind of like kind of like my big takeaway as I was thinking this. Is this like a real shift in the market? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it definitely is.
Yeah.
I just think DJI is such a big player that there's no way that that's not what's going on here. I wanted to talk to my Specialized friends about it and get their take on the Amflow and whether they're thinking about it. And I need to listen to a few more Pink Bike podcasts and read the comment section of the reviews.
Right.
But I think we're at a big moment here. Amflow bikes could be in Costco in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is.
Well, Intense bikes have been.
Yeah, down in the area
maybe it's
where they're from.
Just on a website or
yeah.
maybe they're online only or something. But I don't know. The story you told about Giant taking their profits and figuring out how to enter the U.S. market in a huge way, they changed the market.
Right.
They had been making bikes for Schwinn and Diamondback and others for years, and suddenly they decided they wanted to be a big player in the U.S., and so they came in and swung for the fences.
Yeah, they came in with a big slush fund. They gathered marketing money for years and years and years, and then came in and dropped. And I can remember at that time, I remember somebody telling me that the price that they were selling like an aluminum hardtail, which was like a pretty regular bike back then, that they could buy one retail from Giant for less. It was Bike Shop could actually purchase one for. So they were selling less than their wholesale cost. So when somebody comes in and dumps a price drop like that, I mean it's major. And I think I had read a marketing article. This was maybe a year ago, and they were talking about the difference of like say the boomer generation to Gen X and then younger generations, and how people aren't as tied to their brands as they used to be. Like, people, maybe even our parents' generation, or maybe even us, right? You're like, oh, I'm a Ford person. I buy Fords, or I always buy this one. Sorry about that. I always buy this one brand. And so, sorry about that. That interrupted me there. Oh, and so what they found now is that the younger generations, they're not like that as much. They're really more about the performance. Like they will give, if their dad was a Ford person or their parents were, they might give that Ford a go. But if it doesn't hold water compared to everything else, they're in a Toyota, they're in a Hyundai, they're in a Kia, they're in whatever. And so I think that that's also, from what I'd read, a little bit of a difference in the shift of the market as well. How consumers are. They're quick to jump around.
I definitely think a price correction is necessary in the cycling industry, and I've been reading chatter about this for quite a while now, because how much more does your high end Dura Ace or SRAM Red bike really cost compared to the the next level down or the next level down,
right?
And a lot of it is recouping marketing dollars spent.
Right.
Like I don't see DJI sponsoring any World Tour teams or World Cup mountain bike teams, right? Like they're not spending that money on it, but they have the technology, so they can spend their money to market. But and the point you hit too with the inventory sitting around, I think at a certain point the brands they're just going to have to get the cash flowing through, and they take that hit. So it will be very interesting. Ben Delaney did a little piece, and he rode one of those X-Lab bikes, and I saw something that he put up about that, but it was, I think it was a GRX Di2 level bike, carbon bike, but they're doing their own in-house wheels. They're doing their own in-house, cockpit.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you saw this at $3,200 or $3,500. It's like, it's not like $500 less. It's like $2,000 or $2,500 less.
That's for a Di2 GRX carbon gravel bike, $3,200 or $3,500. That's insane.
$3,500 or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, I posed I actually did something I rarely do on social media, and I made a comment because everyone was debating how they get the price low. Oh, is the brand any good? This and that, and I was like, well, hey Ben, did you actually get to ride the bike? I haven't checked that if he actually rode it, right? There's one thing to make it and it looks good, but it's like, how does the bike ride and how is it riding a year from now?
Right.
So we'll see, but it is kind of exciting, and that competition is always good for the consumer, right? When there's more competition and people are getting creative on what they're making and the pricing varies, the consumer wins.
Yeah.
As long as it's not
when you purchase a DJI drone, it drop ships straight from China. So when you purchase your Amflow, it's probably going to drop ship straight from China. So that's is anyone else doing that? I don't think so.
You purchase a custom to build MacBook or MacBook Pro, it drop ships from China. I've bought computers before, and it's like, here's your tracking info, and it's halfway around the world. So that that's the whole supply chain thing has been figured out by the tech industry, years if not decades ago. I mean, when I got my Mondraker, my Arid frame set, it shipped to me from Spain. So it's been figured out.
It's not made in Spain, though, is it? It's made in China.
Finished. All the finishing work is done in Spain. So that beautiful paint, that finishing work that DS always raves about, which I agree on, they do that. And I think there's also some laws or rules that the tariffs are lower for brands that if they do a certain amount add a certain amount of value to the finished product within the EU, they pay less duty than if they're getting a completely finished bike coming out of Asia. So there are also tax advantages, price advantages. It's quite a matrix.
Yeah.
So I have a blinded by science.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, that's good. Go ahead.
No,
I'm good.
So from time to time, I wanted to review products and follow up on them. I've been wearing for about, Zap, and you guys are always talking about detecting your rides. I'm an overtecher. So on my heart rate strap, I now have 3 devices. I have heart rate, heat, and hydration. I don't really care for the heat product that I'm wearing. Been wearing it for about a year. But this hydration product called H-Drop is impeccable. Very nice. So from the weekend, the Fuego XC, I burned 2,130 grams of sodium, and I did not take in even close to that amount. I only took in about 750 mgs. So I'm going to be learning about all that, and I'll follow up with additional reviews down the road. But the software interface is impeccable. The thing works when you're syncing it. It's a great product. Pretty excited about it. It was referred to me by my friend Todd Adelson, and so far I'm quite impressed. Especially, I think they should buy that heat monitor that I have that doesn't work very well. So I think they should be doing heat at the same time. But really, Garmin should be doing all this. Or Wahoo. Somebody should quickly be doing this. So
interesting. I'll be interested to hear more about that.
It actually analyzes your sweat. Is that what it's doing? So it's like there's some kind of thing that takes the sweat and
It's pretty small. It's only about this big, and you can put it on a band on your bicep. I just put it on my heart rate monitor strap.
Oh, so you just stick it around your already strap, and then it's just up against your skin or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And they provide wipes where you can wipe the sensor. And the data is it studies and learns you for quite some time. My total fluid loss was 94 ounces for 2.5 hours of riding.
Damn. That's pretty impressive. If you think about how big a 40-ounce stainless is, and you had 2+ of those, 2.5 almost.
Yeah. So I have a really bad time all my life with cramping, and it's gotten pretty bad lately. I just don't think I take in enough fluid. I always skip aid stations because I'm racing, and I think it catches up with me, and I don't carry enough. And I'm a big believer in hydration packs, but I didn't have one this particular day. So anyway, I'm learning about it, and I'll be giving follow-up reviews as we progress.
Nice.
So is that the first time you've used that in an event, or did you use it like at Sagebrush or anything?
No, I got it after Sagebrush because cramping was a real problem for me there.
Awesome.
It also uses AI, and it's in the beta form, the AI, but it starts to tell you what its recommendations are for how much fluid, and you can put in like what hydration you use. Like you can put into the app that you use Scratch, or Gatorade,
so then it
or whatever.
Knows the ingredients of that, how much sodium, how much this and that, can tell you how much you need to drink of that specific one. I mean, I have to say, as far as technology goes, I know there's blood glucose and different things, but hydration, I mean, your performance drops so fast, even when you get a little bit dehydrated. It's one of those things you don't really realize. I would say that that's actually, if it could tell you, be like, hey, you got to drink another bottle, you got to do this now, then that would really help out. I mean, I know when I used to do like long rides, or when I, as I like to call it, super domestiqued some clients who like the SB 100, when they would go out training, or we would talk about it, we would work out like a hydration plan. And it's like, we got to finish a bottle by here. You got to finish a bottle by here, one by here. And it was almost always, I was pushing them to stay on top of it. That if they were just left to their own devices, they were going to be halfway up Gibraltar and starting to die before they realized they hadn't been taking in enough fluid. So I think that's a pretty interesting technology. I look forward to you testing that more.
Yeah, and I think I would just back up and say my average heart rate was 160 for, what did I say, 60 minutes or 90 minutes?
90 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90, that's crazy high. And so maybe I was pretty dehydrated. And so, I don't know, I'm just trying to learn more. Now, granted, it may not be the most accurate scientific piece of equipment. Like, your doctor might fire it. But I think when I look at that kind of equipment, it's just like, just keep looking at it, and for whatever it is, it is. Yeah. Whatever data it provides, Like, it might not be completely accurate on my sweat loss, but
does it like integrate with anything else, or like could it integrate with your head unit and say, hey, it's time to like drink? Does it give you like alerts, or that you use it in that way?
I haven't. It does. What's Garmin's app store called? There is a Garmin
Connect
app
store.
There is a Connect app. I just find those Connect things so frustrating and so inconsistent. Like they work half the time. I haven't quite done that. Garmin does have a nice setting that just tells you to drink, which I've turned on. It's kind of a good little feature, but it does nothing to do with this. So I don't know. Right. I'll have to download that app and test it out. Like the Garmin Connect, like wind direction thing, like works half the time, or the tire pressure sensor from SRAM tire pressure thing, it works half the time. Like those Connect apps are very inconsistent, unless somebody has a tip for me on them.
Well, I found a good one to tell me what the level of my radar battery is, but that's about it, and it seems to work pretty well. I think it's been several years, I think, now since I've tried any of those apps, because it's like more and more, but like to know the level of a battery, it can be helpful. So yeah. Well, cool. That sounds really interesting. I'll be as you get more use of it and gather more data.
Yeah,
we'll see. The Overtecker. What did you say? Overtecker? Ubertecker?
Das Tecker. That's like Tech Rico.
Okay, so Positive Pete.
All right.
Yes, it's got a Positive Pete.
My Positive Pete is just a shout out to all of our campground neighbors where we were camped out. We had we had people with small kids. We had a couple that, across from us that were like the model Instagram van couple for me. Like they had the nicest van with all the cool stuff and the perfect dog that she was just like this happy pit bull. We had a bunch of dudes down below us, and everybody was super respectful. Like they were, nobody was loud and obnoxious. I mean, Ed, you got some great photos of some kids wheeling through the campground, with the sun setting. And it was, quite the opposite from, the shenanigans that go on the very other far side of the venue, which we did hear some cheering some nights from that's probably half, 3/4 of a mile away. We heard fireworks. We didn't have any of that. So they were
boxing?
quiet. No boxing, none of that. They were
no flaming
people were
jumps.
quiet and they were clean. Yeah. And we had some great conversations. Like, people seemed to compact the trash in the trash cans. It wasn't overflowing. You know, the toilets even stayed clean. So can't ask for anything more. So thank you.
We even had a random listener. Brian, I think was his name. Brian?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Stopped and said that he enjoyed the podcast. He'd met us at Bovine Classic. So,
right.
I mean, a random guy riding through on his S-Works stopped and talked to us. So,
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
All right.
I think that wraps up episode 29 of the Service Course Report.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
All right.
Watch the races this weekend, people.
That's right. Yeah. Liège.
And coming up, we got Belgian Waffle Ride Week in San Diego. It's one event on one day, and then the next day is another event, and then Gravelstoke has a shakeout ride, and then now he's got a road fondo, and it's BWR week, and Kurt will be off at the Grasshopper Series. What do we got, Cass, this weekend?
This weekend we'll be on the Mendocino coast, out of the little town of Casper, which is south of Fort Bragg, north of Mendocino proper. It is a mountain bike / gravel, all dirt event in the Jackson Demonstration Forest. And then I will not be at, but also going on this weekend, which a lot of the riders stayed over from the Lifetime Grand Prix, is the Growler at Levi's Grand Fondo, which is currently the richest one-day bike race in the world. I think they have a prize list of just over $150,000 cash, which harkens back to the days of the Core States race. Yes, which is crazy that they've got that much money on an open course. Yeah,
that they can pull that off.
That one is going on. It's live streamed on the YouTube. So a lot going on.
Yeah, it's great live streaming. It was good last year. Good racing to watch, and it's a fun little tactical finish where you can watch Sophia fight with whoever about whatever, and you can watch Matt Beers and Keegan split the prize money before the sprint, and it'll be amazing.
Well, we got Luke Lamperti is rumored to be showing up, so local.
Nice.
Yeah, so we get some world tour, at least one world tour rider in there, so it'll be fun to mix it up. And I don't envy anybody that has to come to the line against that guy.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be racing for the lower places. All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Peace.